Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing part 2 of rating every book I read in 2024. If you tap your screen now, you will see that the video is broken up into different chapters is what it's called. So if you already read the book or if you know you won't like it, you can kind of just skip straight into the next one. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys. I'm going to be showing you guys every book, briefly kind of talking about it, and then just giving my opinion on the book and also giving it a rating out of 5 stars. I kind of talked a little bit more about what I look for in a book and what I like to read in the first part of this video, but just to kind of recap quickly, I look for plot and characters that make sense, as well as books that have good character development and book that has plot that is not boring. Here's a quick overview of the books we're going to be talking about today. The first book we're going to talk about is A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. And it's giving like boarding school, rich bad boy. She literally wears a freaking purity ring. That's the vibes. In this book, the characters are also in high school, so it's a lot younger. Let me just say, this book is pretty poorly written. It's not... There was no progression that made sense in the book, and there were also just no substantial relationships with other characters in the book. It was really just the 2 main characters, and then there were other characters present when it was convenient, you know what I mean? All of that aside, I love this book! This book gives me After vibes. Y'all know After? Y'all know After. And After is also just really not good, but just it's giving the epitome of Wattpad books, but like Wattpad books are notoriously not well written, but we still eat them up. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of just the vibe I get from this book. I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't know. The next book, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo by Taylor Jenkins motherfucking Reid. Oh my god, this book was super popular on Book Talk. I saw this so much, and truthfully I did not know what it was about at all going into it, but I bought it and I read it, and oh my god, I was so pleasantly surprised. I had literally no idea what to expect from this book. Literally fab. I don't want to like spoil it, I guess, but it's basically just almost an autobiography of this fictional woman. She was a very, very famous actress in Hollywood, and it just details her whole life from being super young. I forget where she originally was from, but she ended up hitching a ride with some guy. I think she must have been like 16 and he was like 18 or 19, and she like married him. He took her to Hollywood. I'm talking too much about it, and it just details her life of making it in Hollywood and the things that she had to do to kind of like eject her career almost. I gave this book 5 stars, 10 out of 10. Loved this book. Next book! Yee! This is The Dixon Rule by Elle Kennedy. Basically, the female main character lives in this kind of duplex condo kind of situation, and this guy moves in next door and he goes to her college and he's like a hockey player, like y'all already know. She like hates him. And there are just so many different aspects. You know, she's a cheerleader, but she also does like ballroom dancing. She has like a YouTube channel that she posts her stuff on, and they also are obsessed with this reality show. It's basically giving like Love Island, and they talk about that. Like, it's just, there's just a lot going on in this book, and I just really liked it, and the vibes were just really good. I gave this book like, I would give it like a 4.2 out of 5. My review, I wrote, the author dropped 2 bombs on me at the end. I don't even remember what happened at the end, I'm not gonna lie. So I said I cried. Read it and find out, I guess. I don't know. So then after I read that book, I decided to actually go back and read the first series that Elle Kennedy put out. So this is the deal, and this is where Garrett Graham is born. I did give this book 4.5 stars. I don't think this book was really that detailed. I didn't find it the most interesting. It wasn't a bad book, but I definitely have read better. I don't even really remember what the main plot of this book was. I think it was like he was struggling in school. She's really smart. They had like a deal together where she would like help him out in exchange for whatever it was. I don't know. I also feel like there was a good amount of kind of negativity or like conflict going on, which like I'm not mad about conflict, but it just wasn't really drawn out very much, which I would have liked to have seen that played into a little bit more. It was just kind of like fine, you know? This is her off-campus series, and there are 4 books. I did also read the second one. This book was even shorter than the first one. I gave this one 4 stars, The Mistake. I actually also don't remember the plot literally at all. I have no clue what even happened in this book. And again, it just was all right. I feel like she's written better things, so we're just gonna move on from that. The next book I have is called The Nanny by Lana Ferguson. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I read this book over the summer when I had the flu, so it was kind of a comfort book to me in that I was like very sick reading it. Basically, it's about a nanny. Who would have thought? Single dad hires a hot young nanny to look after their kid. This is kind of a spoiler, but it kind of alludes to it in like the summary. So basically, she used to do OnlyFans, and he was like obsessed with her on OnlyFans, and they actually had a really good connection, and then they like kind of fell out of touch, and turns out this is the girl that he hired was the same girl that he had like an OnlyFans situationship with. The book was honestly so much better than I initially thought it was gonna be. Like, you hear OnlyFans and you're just like, it's just gonna be all smut and like boring and just shitty writing, but honestly it was actually really good. And I also feel like every character was so well written and very distinct in their own personalities, except for the male main character. I really hate when a male main character feels like they're kind of just put there to just like be a dick. Do you know what I mean? They just have no personality. They're just there to be hot and have muscles and just, that's it, you know? And I kind of felt like that was the situation here. I also really actually despise when an author does a dual POV book, but the dual POV is not dual POV. You know what I mean? Like, why is the male's POV only present 4 times in the book? What's the point of doing a freaking dual POV at that point, you know? Next book is called Wish You Were Here by Renee Carlino. I talked about one of her books in my first video. It's called Before We Were Strangers. Freaking loved that book. So good. Not sure what happened with this one, can't lie. Basically about this girl that has this one night stand with this guy. She just cannot get him out of her head, and she tries to date another guy, but she's like in love with this guy that she had a one night stand with, which is like, what? One word I would use to describe this book is just weird. It's just a weird book. It's just written weirdly. I'm like, what do you mean you're in love with this guy you spent 12 hours with? What are you talking about? I don't even know. It's also one of those books where you just don't really understand what you're reading until you've like read the whole thing, you know? Like, you don't really know what's going on until everything's been laid out for you. And I think if I were to go back and reread it again, knowing what happens, it would like make more sense to me. But when I was reading it in the beginning, I was like, this is just weird. Like, just the male main character, just the way he acts is so bizarre. And it's like, what? I don't know. I'm just very conflicted about this book. It makes me feel really weird things. I don't know. We're gonna just move on from that because I don't even, wow, okay. Next book is called The Devil Wears Black by LJ Shen. So I actually got this book from one of those like TikTok shop listings where it's like a blind date with a book, you know, and this was the one I got, and I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. I love this book, okay? I gave this book 4.5 stars. It was extremely well written. It also had really good pacing as well, which I think is so important when you're reading a book because you want it to be realistic. And it was also very emotional, which I also really liked. Basically, the 2 main characters are exes. He's super toxic. She's a lover girl. You get the vibe. And the male main character didn't tell his family that they had ended things. And in fact, he told his family that they were actually engaged. I don't know, there's like layers to it, whatever. So she pretends to be his fake fiance. And I love a good like fake something, you know? It's so good. At first they were fake engaged, they like hated each other, and then they worked through their stuff. He was having some issues, whatever. It's also kind of like a grumpy ex-sunshine vibe. Like, he's super asshole-ish to everyone but her type of shit. You know what I mean? Like, vibes. I loved this book. Next book is called Good Girl Complex, also by Elle Kennedy. I wanted to read some of her other books. I gave this book 5 stars, period. Literally, period. I wrote that the plot was similar to After. Oh, it actually totally was. She is just like the perfect daughter, comes from like a rich family. They have all these expectations of her. She has this like super rich lacrosse playing, polo wearing, buzz cut boyfriend, okay? And then she meets this guy who's like a bad boy. At first, it's literally After. Male main character didn't like the rich boyfriend. It was this whole thing. Oh my god, I don't want to get too into it, but he didn't like the rich boyfriend, so he was like, I'm gonna get back at the rich boyfriend by taking his girlfriend. And he did, and then of course she ended up finding out that the whole thing was like staged, but then they kind of ended up actually developing feelings for each other. You know what I mean? Like, it's this whole thing. So good. Just so good. I love this book. The next book I have is Daydream by Hannah Grace. So this is the 3rd book in like the Icebreaker series. Y'all know Icebreaker. I didn't finish filling this one out. I don't really know what happened. I think I just forgot, but I think I probably would give this book 4 stars if I had to choose. I liked the characters a lot. I also liked that the female main character was a little more on like the plus size side. I feel like every time you read a book, it's like her tiny waist and her big boobs and his washboard abs, and it's like, can we get some more realistic bodies in here? You know what I mean? I think out of the 3 books, this one was probably my least favorite. I don't know. I just didn't feel overly connected to this book. We'll just move on from this one. It was fine. It was a cute read. It was a good read, but I've read better. You know what I mean? Like, it's not bad, but it's not like the best thing ever either. I got a lot of people in my last video telling me to also read Twisted Lies because I talked about the other 3 Twisted series books in the first part, and I did read it. I just wanted to wait a little bit because I was kind of just over the characters. I just needed a break because I read the first 3 books back to back, and I just kind of needed a little bit of a break. So I waited, and I finally picked this one up and read it. Everybody says that this one is a very good like slow burn romance, and I don't know. I think my issue with slow burn romances is that it doesn't really feel like a slow burn because you know they're gonna end up just being together anyways. So it's like, why are we even trying to just not be together? I feel like in order for something to make sense as a slow burn, there needs to be obstacles that are keeping them apart. There quite literally was 0 obstacles keeping them apart because the female main character in this book ended up literally moving in with the male main character. Like, she literally lived in his apartment. How close can we get without actually being touching? You know what I mean? I would kind of disagree that the tension was really good and that it was like, I mean, technically, I guess, yes, it was a slow burn, but was it a good slow burn? No. I did give this book 4 stars. Oh my god, don't even get me started. This freaking book had a stupid 3rd act breakup. Oh my god. I'm fine with the 3rd act breakup if it makes sense and if the author actually commits to it. But the 3rd act breakup lasted a freaking chapter and then it was just like, fine. I'm like, what are we doing? What is the point of doing that? It just irritates me, and I understand the author is trying to create conflict, but again, if you're gonna do conflict, you have to commit to the conflict. Okay, everybody needs to take a seat if you're not already. The last books that I'm gonna be talking about today are right here. Oh yeah, baby! The Selection series by Kira Cass. There are not words. Actually, there's a lot of them and I'm gonna say them right now. I read this series for the first time actually in high school, so I kind of debated including it, but I kind of just have to talk about it because if there's one thing you take away from this video, let it be these books. But I haven't read them in several years until last year. I am not literally joking. These are my favorite books on the planet. I don't think a single thing will ever top these books. They are phenomenal. Phenomenal. Every syllable, girl. Long story short, takes place in America in the future. It's not called America anymore. It's not states. They have provinces. There's 35 of them. They're under a monarchy now, not a democracy. Whenever the prince or princess comes of age to marry, which at this time would be around 18 years old, they hold what's called the selection, where one eligible female or male, depending on if it's a prince or princess, gets chosen from every province, and they come to the castle to compete for the prince's heart. Can you think of a better plot? Kind of a spoiler, but it's kind of obvious because there's literally like 7 books right here. Female main character gets chosen to be in the selection, okay? It is this whole layered thing because she has this like boyfriend before she goes to the selection, and then she doesn't even want to go to the selection, but she still goes anyway. Another interesting thing to talk about is that there is a caste system, which kind of just determines an individual's like socioeconomic status, and the royalty would be a 1, and then it would go 2, 3, 4, and then this girl is a 5, which in like today's day and age, that would kind of be like a lower middle class. So the fact that she was like a low caste and was able to go to the palace and experience that life was just very jarring for her. Another thing I will say about these books, you guys, is they are just the absolute furthest thing from boring. There was just so much going on, but not to the point where it was overwhelming, or it just seemed like, oh, the author is just like pulling shit out of her ass to like write about. I swear to God, these books were so impossible to put down because at the end of every chapter, it was almost a cliffhanger, or there was just always something new happening and you wanted to just read it. She was kind of a throwaway candidate because she was a 5. She came from not a whole lot, and she was in this position to make her voice heard and to spark change within people and within an entire country is genuinely just so inspirational. She is incredible, and I just love her as a character. I was reading these books kind of around the time that the election happened last year, and I do feel like a lot of the issues that were kind of coming up in this book were very relevant even today. These are the 3 books with America Singer as the main character, The Selection, The Elite, and then The One. We do have, this book is called Happily Ever After, and it's a companion series. So this is basically just different excerpts from different characters within the books because the selection is only a single POV book. So we have POVs from the prince, we have POVs from the queen, from different characters that are in the books as well. And then we have 2 more books right here. I don't want to say what these are because I don't really want to spoil it. So there's 2 other books that are kind of a part of this as well. If you read literally anything, please let it be these books. I love them so much. Genuinely, I'm gonna stand up and clap. Kira Cass, you just outdid yourself. Oh my God. And if it wasn't clear, each of these books gets 20 out of 5 stars. Okay. Anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for me today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that maybe you hopefully found a book recommendation or 2. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if you feel the same way that I did about them, or maybe you feel differently and you think I'm dumb and you're like, are you even literate? Because like, what the hell? I don't know. Anyways, and definitely leave any book recommendations you guys have down below as well. I'd love to check them out. And yeah, thank you for watching. I love you guys. I will see you later. Bye guys.